Gamer Boss Bronze.
This is True Backlash.
And Blue.
Talking about Transformers, Age of Extinction. We went to see the movie. We loved it. It was awesome, but you probably want a better review than that. So, the story, quickly.
Okay. Basically, after the battle in Chicago, things didn't go well for the Transformers. Sentinel Prime's betrayal of the Autobots cost many their lives, including many human civilians and many Autobots. And it also pretty much ended it, and as a result, it ended up taking both Sentinel Prime and Megatron to the Well of All Sparks by Optimus Prime's own hand. It's been a while since then, and a lot of familiar faces aren't in this movie. Lennox, Epps, Carly, Sam, and his parents are not here or seen or anything. In its place, we have Cade, an inventor, played by Mark Wahlberg, his daughter Tess, and her MacGuffin of a boyfriend, Dylan. And then they end up finding Optimus Prime, building him back, and he's pretty much ticked off because now, evil CIA guy Harold Attinger, played by Kelsey Grammer, he wants to rid the world of all Transformers. It started out as a program just for the Decepticons, but the majority of the Autobots, including Ratchet, get caught in this and killed. And it leads to some pretty heavy stuff with his two partners. One of them is Joseph Joyce, played by Stanley Tucci, a Steve Jobs carbon copy, who's very intelligent and is looking to use the Transformers technology for his own purposes, and another person that will not be revealed because that will be a big spoiler. And now it's up to Cade and Optimus and his daughter and her boyfriend to save the day for all of mankind.
Don't forget the rest of the Autobots that's left.
Oh yeah, the rest of the Autobots. Bumblebee is alive. How can you not have Bumblebee? He sells kids' toys, so that's how you get the kiddies. It's with the kid-friendly character, right? But he's joined by Hound, voiced by John Goodman, Crosshairs, voice actor John DiMaggio, and Drift, voiced by Last Samurai actor Ken Watanabe. And those four guys, they've been in hiding and waiting for Optimus Prime's return. Ever since the Humans' betrayal, they don't even see it as just one group, but it's the Humans' betrayal. They've pretty much had it with the humans, and they're angry and frustrated and pretty much ready to just not deal with them anymore, just want to leave. They're just ready to go.
Well, the story in itself was a great, retelling, reimagining, and sequel to the previous three films. It was paced well. You got to see a lot of sights, interact with a great deal of characters. And the characters themselves are also pretty good. Mark Wahlberg was a fantastic lead. He was both belligerent, but still kind of personable, which made you didn't want to hate him, like Shia LaBeouf roles of past. The Stanley Tucci character was also pretty good. He would fool you when you first see him. You think he's just some uptight, make money, use technology for evil type guy, but over the course of the movie, he does change and evolve, and actually kind of root for him a little bit. Kelsey Grammer's character was also fantastic. He's your generic villain type, but he's always doing it to protect the humanity from all threats, foreign and domestic kind of guy. And, it makes me kind of smile when you see those kind of guys. But again, like Mark Wahlberg, he doesn't do it in a way that's either annoying or pushing it or too forced. I loved it. The Autobots were in great form. They all were they had their own individual personalities. Optimus Prime was still Optimus Prime. Hound by John Goodman was also great. He really made me love that character. John DiMaggio's character, Crosshairs, enough said. And of course, Drift. He was a little close, but he was non-racist and he was cool. He was his own bot. You know, I like both the story and the characters all. Blue?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I like the whole range of characters. I think that it's really neat when you can go to a movie and you can see a story such as the Transformers, and it's delivered in a way that even though there wasn't that pairing from the third movie installment to this one, when the character transition, that didn't happen, but you really didn't really miss it. It would have been a nice touch to have a little of those folks come and revamp, even if it was just a walk-on or a cameo performance. It didn't happen, but overall it still wasn't missed. And you mentioned Drift. I really loved that bot. That was a new Autobot. He was very Asian in his influence, and his style of fighting was really a nice added touch. Needless to say, there's a character that, you know, was a great surprise. It did come back, and it was really nice to see. It was a bot, and then I also dug Crosshairs because he had a very matrixy kind of approach.
His coat, I liked his coat.
Absolutely. I mean, it was really cool. So overall, you know, I enjoyed seeing that whole Autobot thing. Needless to say, there were some other new characters in this movie, and as far as transforming, I dug the way they all transformed. Just super great. And you know, there were some things done in the lab. I won't say what they were, but the results were amazing. It was just awesome.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, that the movie was pretty good in terms of characters. The Transformers were neat. I felt Mark Wahlberg played his part pretty well. Not the best human hero I've seen, but you know, for a Transformers movie, he did all right. The villains were incredible.
Yes.
I can't say too much about them, but I could say Attinger, Kelsey Grammer was quite a threatening villain.
He was.
I thought he played his role well, and his men were equally as cruel.
Really.
And there was more villains on this Transformer spaceship. I can't say too much about that, but the spaceship scene was scary. You have robots that they freak you out like you seen the Spitter on Jurassic Park with Dennis Nedry, William Knight's character. They're just like, you know, you got these giant robotic wolves and all these freaky things. It was like nightmare fuel. And it isn't even just a ship. If the ship's like you had like on one point in the ship, you had this trapeze act in the middle of the freaking city, and it's breathtaking. It's death defying. It's quite scary, but yeah. On the outset, the movie has some pretty good qualities.
Speaking of the settings, the CGI, which were a time, were all fantastic. I loved it. I loved all the action scenes. The Transformers this time around look like Transformers. You know, they weren't too, you know, metally or pipey. They were all solid colors. You could tell them apart. You know, it was great. The bad guys were probably the least creative, but I don't fault them. You know, if I was like some sort of weird Transformer space bot, I would look very unoriginal. You're a robot. What do you know from creativity? And the Autobots were the opposite. They were creative. They were different colors. I loved it all. And, you know, when it came to fight time, all the fight choreography from both humans and Transformers was very well done. And, as a bonus, no gore. So you can enjoy all the carnage, all the chaos, and still have a great sense of the fun of watching a kid's show, because in Transformers, there are no gore. And you know what? I give Michael Bay all the credit for that, because he could have easily made this a splatterfest. But he didn't. And I appreciate that. Any more people on the CG or the settings?
I think the CG was noteworthy because I think the complaints of the previous installments of Transformers was really a lot missing in the form of lighting. If you were trying to see some of the battle distinction, if you were trying to see some of the actual transformation of the actual bots or Decepticons in previous movies, you were really disappointed because it was very dark, hard to see. You knew the action took place, but you almost felt that you missed a lot of it because the scenes were so dark, and they did that so that they could carry it out well. I guess there was some learning that was done, and when they went back to do the presentation of this installment, it was outstanding. It's well lit, very light. You could see all... Wow, that was a transformation right there. You could see a lot of all of the different transformations with the bots and the and all of the robots in general. You could see whenever there was a gun that disappeared into a wheel well, or you could see when a door changed over into, the flap of a helmet. You could see all that take place. And then you got a chance to see some incredible weapons that was done on CG. You could see a lot of the ships creation. You could kind of get that real gritty feeling of what it was like to be in a metally environment, an environment in which there wasn't anything human. It was composed of all nuts and bolts. It felt almost very Borg-like when you were on the ship, and that CG that helped make that happen was amazing, and it was even a little on the scary side. I would not want to be trapped on that ship. That would have been a little bit of a trip. Also found that the CG was very good when you actually saw a lot of the weaponry. I gotta say, the weaponry was phenomenal. It did some really great things, and so I was really pleased. The explosions, a lot of them, were probably CG, and they were done well because they were in the air. It was just great. I loved it.
The CG, it was good. It was real good, but it wasn't anything new, I don't think. The ship was really well done. That's really where I think most of the CG went that I noticed for me. As far as the Transformers go, I gotta say, first Crosshairs, when he becomes a toy, that code is going to make him a shell former, which, in Transformer lingo, that means that's a toy with a lot of kibble, a lot of baggage going on in the back, like all these loose pieces, that aren't really part of his arms or legs or anything. That coat's going to make him a shell former, but the way the CGI does it in the movie, it's loose. You really can't make the toy look like his coat, make it look like loose, because those are like the freaking car windows and stuff. So I thought that was pretty slick. And the way that some of the newer villains Transformers transform, that also was pretty awesome. But, that's just 3 things out of a whole movie. And as far as the Autobots looking different, I can see where Transformers 2 and to a lesser extent Transformers 3 got away from it, because there were so many Transformers by that point, and they couldn't develop pretty much any of them. The first Transformers movie, Optimus, Bumblebee, Jazz, Ratchet, and Ironhide, I think they all look different, and I think they all stood out. You got this pickup truck with a bunch of guns. You got this slick, cool-looking silver Mercedes-Benz, I think. You got the super big Bumblebee, the super big pickup truck. Big Rig and Optimus, and then for some reason you have a green ambulance. But they all can't be winners, but they all stood out. But I think the CG was good for the movie. Nothing too shocking. A couple good things, though.
I also have to give it up for not only the CG, but the setting, is that in the movie, you go to China as well and see all the action and intrigue, sort of a different country that is not America. I mean, I like America, but, aliens can invade other places, so I definitely give them credit for that. Let's move on to the good and bad. Who wants to start, or shall I?
I'll start. The good, I liked so much of the CGI I've already talked about, and I gotta say the actors, I thought they did a great job. Particularly the actors that we know always do an outstanding job. John Goodman and Kelsey Grammer and Stanley Tucci. I mean, you just can't miss if you've got them in your film. And just to know that it was a Michael Bay and Steven Spielberg collaboration, I think they do an outstanding job in bringing all of their, E.T. phone home and other Transformer kinds of combinations to make it a successful thing in the eyes of the people who are out there as fans. So those things were a big plus for me. Things that I did not like, well, it was a very long movie. I think we talked about that a little bit, but it was really long, 2 hours and 37 minutes. I didn't have a problem with that, but, for the average film being roughly just under 2 hours, yeah, it was long. But, again, I enjoyed it because it wasn't idle time. It wasn't a waste of time. You were sitting there watching lots of action in that time. I do wish that I could have seen maybe some transitional characters. There was one that came back, which was a nice surprise. I don't want to be a spoiler, but not the characters that you're thinking about, like, in terms of trying to make some scene transition from one movie to the next, like maybe Shia's character.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, he could have showed up
Spike or something.
Yeah, Sam. He could have showed up as the boyfriend instead of him actually being this generic boyfriend.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that would have helped. And then I got a small nitpick, I don't know, but honestly, I would really like it at the end of the movies if they would actually sing the Transformer song.
Well, actually,
I'm pretty sure they sung it in the first movie, but I'm not sure.
Definitely not in this one. So I'd like to have seen that.
real quick edit, I think some of the Image Dragon songs at the end of the movie, they kind of gave those riffs. You're going to have to listen to it a little bit more clearly next time we go see that movie. The goods for me were most of the actors and the voice actors did very well. Special credit goes to Frank Welker, who's in this movie. He plays one of the villains. Can't tell you what he really does, but he's in this movie. He does great. Mark Ryan, who's the voice of Bumblebee for 5 seconds, and the voice of Jetfire in the second movie. He also does another character. He very good. And the man, the myth, the legend, that is Peter Cullen. He deserves his credit for being Michael Bay's Optimus Prime, still being for the longest time, he was a benevolent leader, like we know he could be. He was kind of dumber, but it was a Michael Bay movie. What do you want? But at the same time, he was that same Optimus we knew and loved. He didn't have to curse once in that whole movie, and yet he still showed anger and frustration and make you feel like he was angry beyond reproach. He was willing to kill anything that threatened to harm all his remaining Autobots or harmed his human friends that helped him. He would not stand for it. It's a different Optimus Prime in a way that the Optimus Prime in other incarnations has killed, but also stayed kindly and friendly, like Superman or Ronald McDonald.
Or Winnie the Pooh.
Or Winnie the Pooh.
And the
Heffalumps. But he was... In this movie, he was a little bit darker, but at the same time, he was consistent. Peter Cullen was consistent, so was Bravo. Also give credit where it's due with John Goodman, John DiMaggio, and Ken Watanabe as the other Autobots, to Kelsey Grammer, to Titus Welliver as the CIA, Kelsey Grammer's sidekick.
Don't forget Bing Bing.
Oh yeah, the assistant, Bing Lee. And for what he did, I gotta give Mark Wahlberg credit. He wasn't the best. In Four Brothers, he was the best. But at the same time, this movie, he was great. Let's see. Let me see. What else? The action. The action was incredible. We talked a lot about... I'll talk a little bit about it. It's really, really good. The action scenes were longer and more Transformers-oriented. But even when you had a couple of fight scenes with humans, good timing, good pacing, lots of Bourne Identity, Mission Impossible type of homages. And, let's see, I gotta tell you, everyone that was wanting to complain about the last couple movies where they perceived to be problems, the sex humor, the gross out humor, the perceived racist characters or caricatures, none of them to be seen in this movie. So that made it even better. It was a more mellow, well-told story. And sure, John Goodman and John DiMaggio, especially Transformers, and a handful of the humans, they did curse up a storm, but not everyone did, because it wasn't needed. It was calmer. The bad came from the time to time, The first 20 minutes of that movie dragged on, and only the Lord of the Rings movie, mainly Return of the King, and the Angry Hulk movie made me think of good movies that just started, and I was like, come on, pick it up! Let's see, what else? I kind of thought Tess was, Mark Wahlberg's daughter, Cade's daughter. I kind of thought she was kind of a damsel. She wasn't too bad, but she could have been a lot more affirmative action-y. And then, Dylan, oh man, he was a boring boyfriend. They gave up a comedic character, which I won't spoil because his fate is yet to be determined. They gave up that character, and I know comedic characters was one of Michael Bay's weak points in those movies as well, but I think he could have worked. They gave him up and replaced him with the boyfriend, and the boyfriend goes from boring to less boring to whiny to cowardly to needling Cade. It's like, I'm dating your daughter. I'm dating your daughter. I'm dating your daughter. What you gonna do about it, old man? So, those are some of the few bad points, but, just those few.
Yeah, I agree with you guys more or less with what you said. I mean, I love the story. It was a good follow-up to the first three movies and rebooting in some of its ways. I definitely liked the characters that were there. The Autobots were great. The human characters were excellent, both good and bad on the side. The CG was fantastic. A lot of action-y scenes, a lot of them more often than not. The combat between bot-on-bot action, always great, It made me feel every blow, every stunt. Let's see what else. The cars look nice, especially when they're blowing up or they're, hitting robots in disguise. Like Blue said, not one, but two types of transformation sequences is very, very good. You got your classic transformation, but then you got this new one that's very slick and impressive. Everything like that. The downsides, the bad, unfortunately, as well as the Autobots were on task. The Decepticons were not there. There was no Decepticon presence. I mean, there were, of course, there was enemies to fight for sure. The challenge to the Autobots is just that our Decepticons, no Starscream, no Soundwave, no Brawl, no Constructicons, not even Megatron is not here. And you know what? I do miss them. I mean, as much as I love Kelsey Grammer's character and being a character that he is, evil, but, he's a well-intentioned extremist, as Backlash would call him. He just doesn't take the place of a good Megatron or even a good Starscream. I miss them. I want them to be back in the next movie, and thanks to the awesome opening day money that Michael Bay made for this series, there's going to be a next movie. Bring back the original Decepticons, or make them clones with personalities. I want my bad guys to have the same. Let me rephrase. I want my bad guy bots have the same amount of personality as the good guy bots. Otherwise, it's not Transformers. It's just GoBots. I'll just say.
Real quick, the first movie's Decepticons came at the strength of the various types of villains they were, and let's be honest, only Starscream for all of 5 milliseconds, and Barricade, played by Animaniacs' Jess Harnell, the cop car, only they really had personality. The rest was like, oh, here's a tank, and here's a chopper, and here's a scorpion. There you go.
And you know what? Other than, the lack of personalities for the Decepticons or even a Decepticon presence, I guess time would be a bad thing. It wasn't to me. That's why I have to put an asterisk here. I enjoyed it. It gave me more bang for my butt. But my bang for the buck, for the $10 I had to put towards this movie, I got my money worth this time around. But I can understand how people could see as it a problem. I mean, when the people were whining about The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, I couldn't see it. It didn't bother me at all. It was well paced. The story went smoothly, flowed. I could not see it at all, but I can see it in this. And if I can see it, then other people can, and their complaints would be legitimate. So that's just there, just throwing out. But at the end of the day, it's a platinum pass for perfection for me.
Well, I gotta say, I really want those 20 minutes to have been better used at the beginning, but I'm gonna be honest with you. None of the Transformer movies really ever really irked me. I never hated them. I think Michael Bay is doing a fine job. I think for what it is, a dumb popcorn flick, oh man, it delivers. That's more than I can say about the number mummificated X-Men movies. Because each and every one of those first 3 movies disappointed me in some way or another, and I loved those movies, especially. I can't even say I think X-Men Origins Wolverine. I'll go out and say it because Gambit was in it. Is my favorite X-Men movie. I'll go out and say it, but at the same time, they disappointed me. In Blade Trinity, me being a wrestling fan with Triple H in it, that disappointed me. The first 2 Blade movies were good. That last one disappointed me. No Transformers movie has ever disappointed me. At least not yet. I hope it never starts. And while I think the 20 minutes is definitely important, it's not a nitpick. It's also not something for me to start hating the movie franchise now. I'm giving it a platinum pass. Everything else was great.
I, too, give it a platinum pass. And I do want to mention one of the things that Bronze and Backlash we had in our pre-production discussion, and maybe Bronze can elaborate a little bit on this, is the fact that, Michael Bay did not have the gore. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I thought I brought it up real quickly when we were recording, but I'll say it again, is the fact that I do like my action, I like my fighting, I like conflict, because conflict is fascinating. As humans, we like to see that. That's why boxing exists, and mixed martial arts, and, martial arts in general. And I like it. But, for me, I would like to see the conflict, but not so much the results of Mortal Kombat, if you mind the metaphor here. And, a lot of movies these days, they don't think too much about it, but they just add in, oh, what's a severed head? Oh, what's a broken limb
Very
with
Game
blood?
Of Thrones-y. Ugh.
Very Game of Thrones. And that's coming from a fan, people.
I love Game of Thrones, but that gore, ugh.
Yeah, and you know what? You get kind of sick of it, and, it's just like what a lot of people consider like things that are their berserk buttons. Racism in things that may or may not exist. Sexism in things that may or may not exist. For me, it's gore that I know exists because there's buckets of it all over the screen, all over the floor, all over people's bodies. And you know what? I find that unnecessary. You could have action, you could have drama, you could have combat without one speck of blood. How do I know this? Because Michael Bay did it in this movie. I will challenge you. Find me the scene where you see any of that red, gooey stuff, like anywhere. People will get shot, people will get hurt, but you don't see that gore, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Michael Bay. And I do believe Backlash said something about robots, about that subject of gore.
Oh yeah, the robots tend to bleed a lot. They get dismembered. They get killed in all sorts of ways throughout the series. They bleed green blood or bleed oil and stuff.
Fluid or something.
Yeah, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. But the difference is that one's a robot, the other is human.
Right.
I won't say much, but in the movie, there is a decapitated decapitated Transformer. And later on, she comes back in a brand new form.
Right.
The difference is you could do that with robots. Yeah, I can't do that with people.
Nope. Right. Absolutely.
So I just want to give my tip of the hat and a big thumbs up to no gore in Transformers, because in 80s cartoons where there's action and fighting, they didn't have any gore, and I'm glad they kept that true to the movies.
I absolutely agree. So for me, I have to add that to one of the reasons why I give it a big Platinum Plus. I liked the movie. I thought it was actiony, and certainly you can take the kids to the movie. And for all those of you who grew up on Transformers, you will not be disappointed. It's for those folks who are coming to a Transformer movie expecting, oh, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, Game of Thrones or Harry Potter, maybe they'll be disappointed. But if you're coming looking for Transformers, you're getting that.
Yeah. And you know, whiny boy fanboys of this series, please don't go to this movie expecting Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet or some sort of epic Chinatown type thing. It's Michael Bay, it's Transformers, it's never going to change, it's not going to be anything you want. You're going to have to find the bridge and get over it. That is just reality. Awesome, awesome reality. So, this is the one true Omni Gamer Boss Franz.
This is True Backlash.
And Blue.
Signing out, transforming, and rolling out. Did I do that right this time?
Yeah, you did it right this time.
You did it with more than meets the eye.
Yeah.